So this is what I'm going to talk about, a little bit about what Challenger is, our legacy systems, what the industry out there is saying about that, what our current infrastructure is, and technology challenges part 1 is, these are challenges that we had that we actually resolved and resolved very nicely. And then technology challenge part 2, what do we do with our legacy system? So legacy systems, what is the industry saying? And I actually pulled this off of Eveline blog. It was a couple of things about green screens, and I put check marks beside the ones that I agree with, that I feel 93% of organizations still use green screen. In our business, that's very true. I haven't really seen where it's a negative impact on recruitment or retaining people. Matter of fact, we've got people who would probably never want to get off green screen, and they just shudder at the thought of doing a Windows app. This is from a Gartner transportation survey that they did. It's focused on the transportation industry. 85% of CIOs acknowledge that agility is increasingly important. Transportation is plagued by legacy systems and processes and heavily customized applications. And that is Challenger to a T. From the same survey there, it showed there was top 20 technology priorities for the year. And as you can see, number 9 is legacy modernization. How did we get to where we are now? So it's kind of funny because back in 95, 97, because that's when we went live, we were running on a Unix system, and because of applications, we had to move to the 400, because that was the biggest transportation system available. All the top carriers in the US used it, and it ran on the AS400. So much to my chagrin, because I was a Unix person and thought that was the best of everything, we had to move to what I considered old technology, the AS400, because of application. I can tell you, I love I call it I-Series now. I'm not quite up to Power 7 yet. Talk about the best system in the world. I would definitely have to agree. Over the years, however, you can see as we went on, we bought all sorts of other little applications to support our system. And here we are now, 20 years later, and I'm faced with the same struggle. I need a new application, and for the transportation industry, they all seem to run on a Windows platform. So our industry has gone completely full circle. So challenges part 1. So these are the ones that we actually found really, really good, very cool solutions for. System limitations. Reporting over disparate systems. As you can see on the slide before, we had many, many different platforms. We obviously want to report all as one. So the solution to that was BI. BI sits on top of everything. You load your data down, and you can normalize it all together and create great reports, analytic and transactional. The next problem is the software limitation challenge. We signed up a large customer a couple years ago, and they wanted 4 decimal point fuel surcharge calculations. Our system only does 2 decimal point. Yes, we could change it. It would take a long time, because obviously that was throughout the whole system. So the next challenge is for our 3PL company, we just started using Mercury Gaede on a cloud-based system. So how do we get the information from that tied into our I-Series app? So system challenge number 1, the 4 decimal point calculation. So what our solution was, since all the information resides on BI, which runs on SQL, we performed all the calculations down there, created a report so the invoicing department could manually enter all the customer invoices correctly. And it worked well. It was a gap solution. It's 4,500 orders a month that someone would have to manually update. It was about 1 full-time equivalent. So what we did is Eden came down to our place one time to show us modernization. We were thinking of creating some mobile apps for our sales force. And as we were looking through the look tools, there was one that caught our eye, and it was called SOArchitect. So basically what it does is it removes the entry screen. So instead of the entry screen, you feed the data. It uses all the logic underneath, which works fine, and it would do the same thing as if somebody was entering. So basically, these are the steps that you go through. You would sign in as a user, and you would record all the steps that user does. Then in SOA, which is SOArchitect, You open up the saved screens, you would name all the input-output fields, you use debugger, walk through it all, make sure it all works. You create a web service to wrap the JScript around, and then you deploy it to your IIS server, and then you would create, in whichever programming language you wanted, the user application for that. So the initial project took 60 hours, but that was because we had training. As part of training, they did a proof of concept, but then obviously beyond that, we had to figure out all the error codes. We had to create the user interface on the outside. So what took someone 4 hours a day to rate, we can now rate approximately 20 invoices per minute, and the user can do something else at the same time. So we wrapped it around a nice pretty little .NET screen. So the information still comes from our BI server. We automate the stream of data into the Look project, and it automatically rates everything, as if somebody was actually data entering it. So we have saved 4 hours a day, every day, for our invoicing department. So then the second challenge was our integration challenge. So all our ELS is our 3PL, it's Engineered Logistics Solutions. They're all created on a transactional cloud-based system called Gaede. All Gaede does is the transportation side of things. So we still had to create the orders and the invoices on our I-series so that they would flow through our general ledger. So what we did was the paper copy of the invoice, and somebody again manually entered it. We're talking here about 2,500 orders a month, and obviously it's growing rapidly because that's our biggest growth area right now. That's about half a full-time equivalent. And again, we had incomplete receivable outstanding dollars because there was, lack of communication between the two departments. People would forget to pass the invoices over. Again, data entry error, boredom for the people keying in, and it was not very, very good. So using the same SOArchitect, we created this project. Now there was 2 screens to create in this case because we actually had to create the order and then the invoice from the order. However, it only took 2 days to do because all the components are reusable. So all the components from the first system that we set up were reusable for this one. We had to do a little bit of tweaking to get the other screens in. And we can create an order and an invoice every 2 seconds. So there's no delay as soon as the data comes over, and again, we import the data stream from Gaede and throw it through, and every 2 seconds we have an order and an invoice. So those are very successful solutions. We see a lot of extra benefit using the same technology. Our driver pay. So right now, all our hourly drivers fill out a trip jacket. We have 50 hourly drivers a day that do the hourly work. It's one full-time equivalent. And somebody has to manually enter all that information. So our project is we're going to use the trucks have all GPS. We know exactly where they are. We know when they sign in and out of their units. We know when they leave and arrive at yards because all our yards are geofenced. So we're going to create the hours worked from all the geofence data, pass it through the SOArchitect, and create a payroll entry for the driver. So there'll be no human intervention at all. Now this one's really cool. This is we're doing a proof of concept on this right now, so it's using the SOArchitect and a new tool, the OCR, ICR software. You can teach it to read documents. So you can either design the document, if you have a standard document you're going to use all the time to pick out certain data elements, or you can teach it to be flexible and look for certain words, like look for invoice to the right or to the bottom, and then take that field in the invoice. It can even do handwriting, so all our trip jackets, as long as it's legible handwriting, it can pick data off of that. So our challenge is that we get invoices from carriers that come in through email or through mail. There's probably about 75,000 a year. We have to manually enter that data. We manually scan it into our document management system, and then we have to manually index it as well. So the solution is we can monitor a mailbox to see if there's an attachment. We can scrape the data from that using the OCR tool, We can send it to our document management system automatically. Taking the data that we've scraped off, we can now pass it through an SOArchitect and automatically create all those AP invoices. And then after that, we would look at things like our driver paperwork. We can automatically index that. We could do order entry, because a lot of the orders come in on paper. We could do employee, anything with paper. And then create the little SOArchitect project that sends it through the 400. So it's tools like that that really does extend the life of your iSeries, and I just need to find a bigger tool to solve our big problem, which is number 2, our legacy system. We're not on support, and there's no valid option to go back on support, so that's a detriment. Our TMS, Transportation Management System, is very outdated. It's written in RPG, like I said, many different versions of RPG. It's very time-consuming to add and modify anything to those screens, and because of our culture where we want to change, we have constant projects that we need to do. Our developers are an aging demographic. And yes, anybody can learn RPG if that's the language we've chosen, but people coming out of school don't want to do that. They want to do the cool, flashy stuff. It's a cumbersome user interface. It's not intuitive for younger workers. Like I said, that hasn't stopped us from hiring anybody. People who do heads-down data entry love the 400 or the green screens because it's easy, it's quick. But the reality is more, our workforce is getting younger and younger, and it is going to become an issue. Our processes are not documented, so we have data integrity issues. We have inconsistent new user training, which leads to the data integrity. And also within our company itself, there's no consistency between how one group will do an order entry or an invoice to how another group does. So here's the big question, what do we do? Agility, we talked about that, how fastly technology is changing. And to support new business models, we as IT have to be agile and fast. Our current platform, not the iSeries, but our software obviously is not progressing. So when any new tools come to the market for the transportation industry, we have to create the interfaces ourselves. And then there's the challenges faced within the transportation industry. Driver shortage is the biggest industry issue there is. There are not enough drivers, so we have to find ways to keep our drivers, to want our drivers to come to our company, and we can only do that by creating good solutions for them, to improve their quality of life when they're on the road, to improve their work life. And the other thing is shippers are commoditizing transportation. They just want the cheapest freight they can get. So unless we can build things to tie the shippers to us, our customers to us really tightly, making it very difficult for them to leave, they will leave. They'll just go for the cheapest dollar. The only way we can do that again is to build things for them. And as an IT group, we're too busy just keeping our system going, handling with our current change. So this again is from the same quote, or from the same Gartner paper, and it was basically dealing with we have to extend our supply chain from inside our company to our vendors, to our partners, and to our customers. And in order to do that, we have to be able to move fast. And like I said, tying our customers to us and making sure our drivers don't want to leave. And that is the biggest challenge we're facing right now. So we found excellent solutions, and so there it is, discussion. Modernization or new technology?